Hello, and welcome to the next episode of our podcast, brought to you by Tallinn University's Social Entrepreneurship Master's Program, or SEMA, as we call it. I am Katie, your host, and in this series, we explore how change makers are using business for good, solving real-world problems with creative and sustainable solutions. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Joe Dunnigan, a SEMA student and the founder of the Banned Books Museum. His social enterprise isn't just preserving the history of banned books, it is sparking critical conversations about censorship, freedom of speech and expression, and the power of books. What does it mean to run a museum dedicated to banned books and censored books? Or how social enterprises like his shape the way we think about information in the digital age. So let's get started. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start with a story. What inspired you to create the Banned Books Museum and how you ended up in Estonia?
Well, the main inspiration for the Banned Books Museum came when I lived in China. I lived in China before I lived in Estonia. And at that time, I saw a lot of the propaganda, censorship, and things like that. So I got interested in this topic of censorship, how it works, and started collecting books about censorship and also books which had been banned. And after I moved to Estonia, it stayed in my mind. And although Estonia is a free country, of course, it's still a very relevant topic here because people remember the censorship from the occupation times. So there's a kind of ghost of strong censorship here in Estonia, and people take it very seriously. People have very strong feelings about it. And that's why it seemed like a good place to start the Banned Books Museum. I didn't move here because of this project. I moved here because my wonderful Estonian girlfriend, who is now my Estonian fiance, she wanted to move here, and I thought that was a great idea because I love it. So yeah, we started up this place 4 years ago. Yeah, in 2020, at the end of 2020, we started the museum, and the collection never stops. We just keep getting books, banned books and censored books from all around the world.
That's a great story. What was the moment that made you realize that your museum was not just a museum, but also a social enterprise? What I'm asking, what makes your museum a social enterprise?
I was always aware of social enterprise because, I thought social enterprise was an interesting alternative business because I didn't want to do this place like a charity or a normal non-profit organization because, to be honest, I have worked with charities and non-profits in the past, and I have seen how much time is spent just in application forms and fundraising and this kind of work. I didn't want to spend half of my life filling in applications. So I was looking for an alternative way to do it. And I like this. I like the energy. I like, making something which is cool and finding people who want that thing and, kind of selling it to them, and it creates a certain energy, and I like that. So I found that social enterprise is a good it's an unusual business model, and there are definitely challenges to run a business like this. But to run your enterprise and be free from fundraising, be free from economic or financial dependence on some big institution, that feels very satisfying. It means that we grow slowly, but I don't mind because we're not trying to make money with this. Our objective is a social objective. We are trying to inspire change in people, and there's an educational objective, and there's even a therapeutic side to this project. So there's a lot of social kind of elements to this, which is why I chose the social enterprise as a business model. It does make things a little difficult because social enterprise is quite a new form, and there's a lot of competing ideas about what that even means, I think. But I like the way that we do it. I'm happy with the model that we have now.
Yes, let's talk a bit about censorship, which has a huge history, and it's really complex and also ever evolving issue. We have examples of censorship even now as we speak. Some books might be getting banned somewhere. What are some of the most surprising or impactful cases of the books banning that you have encountered?
Well, there's a huge range of ways in which things get banned and censored. The Banned Books Museum, we kind of present ourselves and we market ourselves as preserving books, and we're kind of collecting the books. But really what we're collecting is actually different forms of censorship and the different ways that books can get banned. For example, say in the USA right now, there is a kind of wave of censorship, specifically of books in school, which have LGBT content. So in the museum, we don't try to get all 1,000 books, with more than 1,000 actually, but we don't try to get 1,000 books which are representing that, to cover everything. That's not the point of what we're doing. What we do is we try to get one or two key examples so we can talk about this topic and introduce this form of censorship to our visitors. And that's true of all the books. We have books from 100 different countries. We have over 400 books, and every one of them is a little different. It tells a slightly different story of a different place, a different time, when censorship appeared in a different way. So, so there are over 5,000 years of history of censorship. Of course, technology changes too, and even what a book is and what that means changes over time. The technology we use to make books and distribute books changes, so the censorship also has to change. And so throughout history, we see this kind of race between the technology, the ways of distributing information, and the ways of blocking that information or editing that information without the consent of the author, which is really the key part of censorship. I mean, censorship is about consent, basically. Like the author's work is being changed in a way that they didn't approve or they didn't want. Key aspect. So yeah, that's why the work here never stops. We are kind of doing two things at the same time, which is studying every country around the world and its history, but also watching the news and looking for the new examples which are happening. And yeah, it's a big job. And fortunately, our team here loves this topic, and we really see the benefit that come with people learning about this topic and visitors, the skills that they develop and the light in their eyes when they visit and see something from their country. It's very satisfying work, and that's why we keep up with the challenge.
Regarding the watching the news and whatever's going on in the world right now, I cannot not ask that nowadays in the very digitalized era, the censorship is not just about books. It's about also social media. It's about news. It's about AI generated content moderations, etc. There are so many things. Do the lessons from the book censorship apply to today's online information landscape?
I think that the general skill of understanding how censorship works, the different ways it can form, this skill is transferable. So if you learn about the history of book censorship, you have a basic understanding of how that system works, what's restricting on speech, restricting on communication, how they can. And in that sense, it's transferable to other forms. Although, of course, every medium is different. I mean, books are quite different and different technology from movies or from AI, misinformation and things like that, or social media. So you do have to adapt to the new form. But you have this, by studying this topic, frankly, by coming to the museum and seeing all of the examples, you have this base skill, which you're then ready to adapt. And I think that's really important. And that's why we use books as a kind of catalyst for people to acquire this specific skill. especially young people, because if you give them the skill early, they're ready to apply it to all the different things that they see. Movies, TV, music, social media, AI generated content. These are all different, but with the way that they can be restricted and the way that they can block information, uh, it's a similar principle. So yeah, I think that it's broadly transferable.
Yes. You partly covered that topic already, the difference between charities and social enterprises. But can we elaborate this topic a bit more? Considering that running a museum is a unique form of social entrepreneurship, and what are some of the biggest challenges you are facing or you have faced in the past in making it financially sustainable?
Yeah, well, the traditional way, the the normal way that you run a museum is you have partners who are either the government from the government or the EU, or you have some very large foundation with a lot of money who has a strong interest in one specific topic. They provide the basic cost for building the museum and then the collection and running the museum. Maybe there's a little commercial aspect, a gift shop or sales or something like that.
Yes.
They do not usually cover the cost of the museum. That's quite unusual. We don't have that, frankly. I don't have I don't want a government contract, and we don't have a large foundation who is going to pay for our staff or something like that. So it was necessary for me to find a different business model. And I like this way of doing business because I don't have strong influences about how to run the business. Nobody, for example, if I could take money from the Estonian government or Tallinn city, we would have to focus more on the Estonian story, which is fine. I understand why they are doing that, and we could do that. But if we do that, it has to be our place to do it. We're not, and that doesn't really work year after year. It's not a long-term solution. So instead of panicking every year and scrambling to try and find new sources of income and trying to adapt our museum to fit the application form, we don't do that. We don't fill in any application forms. We just generate money by opening up all different business channels. And it has been difficult. It took 4 years. It took less than that. It took 3 years to become financially sustainable. Although 2 of those years were kind of coronavirus years, so it was we had a complicated growth because of
Yes.
the same time as coronavirus. So the timeline is a little bit weird, but basically it took us just a few years to cover all of our costs here, which is really nice. And once we got to that place, it's just so freeing, and I don't have to worry about it too much, and I'm not panicking about next year, 2026 or 2027, and oh God, who's going to give us money? And we should start our programs now because they have to grow, so then we can fill in that application form in 2027. We don't have that kind of problem here. We often have visitors who do work in non-profits or NGOs or charities, and when I tell them this, I can see in their face that it's quite shocking, and they wish that they could have that kind of freedom, for financial freedom and freedom in terms of what we do in the museum, in terms of our collection. We can talk about whatever we want. The only thing we have is a board. We have 3 people. It's not just me. There are 3 people kind of at the top, you could say, and we decide together what we could do. And that's it. I feel very independent and free here, which is nice. It takes a lot of work to get there.
It's really empowering not to be dependent to other sources, let's say. Could you please elaborate a bit more the business part, how the museum makes itself financially sustainable? What are your ways of doing this?
The primary income right now is from tour we do a lot of tour groups. We do tour groups mostly with students from different high schools around Tallinn and more outside of Tallinn too. And they come here to the museum, or I go there to them, and we talk about censorship, and that's great. Usually it's like 45 minutes tour group, and the kids really love this place. They get really interested in it. It's a lot of fun. So that plus we sell them. We sell merchandise. We sell socks. Quite often people give us donations. We don't have tickets here in the museum. It's free to come in. People often offer us donations, which is very nice. And that's it right now. It's very simple. The only other thing we used to have a Patreon. So basically every month people would pay a little bit every month to support the museum. And then that was our book club, actually. Then at the end of last year, we decided to stop doing that, mostly because running the book club was it was a bandwidth problem for me. I had too much on at that time, and I couldn't commit to running it. But also there was a question of how do we want to be a social enterprise? I would like to more and more. I would like to kind of move away from this donations model.
Yes.
Try to be as keep it as simple and clean as possible. And for me, that's a kind of simple transaction. Like I have a book. You want the book? Great. This is kind of the simplest and cleanest model that you can find, and so we're moving more towards that kind of commercial angle. So yeah, the income streams continue to evolve. They continue to change. We have something is happening here, and which is very cool. And I don't want to say what it is. But in the next couple of months, we have a new income stream, and that's exciting. So these things change over time, and the business has grown organically. The only consistent thing is that we move away from funding towards commercial activities, and as we have done that, achieve financial sustainability. So I think this really works for us. It doesn't work for everybody, to be clear. I would never say, every charity should be a social enterprise or, no, I don't think so. There are definitely a lot of social problems which cannot be addressed in this way. And they have, everything is slightly different. But if it worked for you, then it worked for you. And we are in this change level need where this is appropriate for us.
Yeah, that's really inspiring that you are constantly looking for more creative, innovative ways of generating income while also raising awareness and having this huge educational impact on the people.
It's not rocket science, actually. All you have to do is listen to people. They will tell you what they're going to pay for.
True.
People come in all the time, and they say, oh, I wish you had. I say you have all these books, but I was looking for this book, and I say, okay, maybe, and people come in and they say, oh, I wish you could supply this, or people come in and they say, can you do presentations? And I say, yes, I can, but it's going to cost you. So people will come in and tell you what they're prepared to pay for if you just wait long enough, and you don't have to listen to them all the time. Most of their ideas we don't move forward with, but from time to time they have something. They come up with something. So it's not just about me and my genius, for marketing or business. I just listen and people will tell you what they need, and then you fulfill that need. It's quite simple.
Let's talk a little bit about our master's program. What attracted you to Tallinn University Social Entrepreneurship Master's Program, and how did it align with your goals, and any particular either courses, either mentorships that were helpful for you to develop your social enterprise?
Well, my story is a little unusual, maybe, for the social enterprise course. I joined in 2020. Basically, I had the idea for this place, although it was not a museum at that time. At that time, the idea was that it was a shop, and we would it was the bamboo store, and we would sell books that other people would sell. That was the basic idea. And then I met one of the lecturers from the SEMA course, Joe Dunnigan, to talk about would the course be beneficial for me, give me the skills to run this place.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that the course would be appropriate. It would give me the skills to run this place. But Joel was very specific. He told me that this is months before the course started. He told me, Joe, when you join the course, everybody will have a social enterprise already. And I said, really? And he said, oh, yes, everybody will have a registered company and they will be doing business. So if you join, you should also definitely have that. And I said, oh God, okay, I'll start today, Joel. And he said, okay, good, yeah, you probably should. Of course, I showed up on day one. I think I was the only person who had a functioning social enterprise, or at least the only person with, premises and, a location and everything like that. And so it was quite funny, but it was good actually, because it meant that, I was running bandwidth at the same time as studying. So the two were influencing each other. Anything which I studied on the course, I could apply in the museum. Vice versa. The things which I learned in the museum, I could take to the course and see how the theory and the real world interacted. So that was quite satisfying. So yeah, I recommended doing it that way. Although, of course, it means that it's quite difficult because then you're studying full time at the same time as you're running a bit. But if you're ready to do it, then it's very beneficial. Yeah. Then what happened actually was a little bit strange for me. I finished my first year of the master's course, and then I took a sabbatical. I basically left the course for until this year. So that was, I think, something like 3 years that I left the course because I wanted to focus on this place. The lecturers have been extremely supportive, and through the years, they continue to, all the time, have very good relationships with them. They continue to bring people to me, and I can present my books as an example of a social enterprise for them. So it's a very good symbiotic relationship. I like that very much. But yeah, I recently rejoined the course to kind of finally to finish and to get that degree and do my thesis. And so I'm excited about finishing up, finally finishing the SEMA course. But I managed to extract the benefits over many years.
Yeah, that's great. What I wanted to ask next is your advices for aspiring social entrepreneurs. What should they do if they would like to also run a social enterprise? What are the most important things for them to consider in the beginning of the journey?
Man, that's tough. It's tough because it's tough for me to answer that question because sometimes I feel very alone in doing this. There is a social enterprise network in Estonia, but I'm not part of it. Yeah, we don't need to go into that, but I'm not part of like a community of social entrepreneurs. Kind of through the SEMA program. So I don't have many other examples, so I don't necessarily know what other people should do. At the same time, I can tell you what was helpful for me.
Definitely.
I guess doing something that you're actually passionate about is important. It's there's really no point at all to try to force yourself to be passionate about something. That doesn't work. I don't know. I hope this does not sound, I don't mean this to be mean, but it's not for everyone. And that's fine. It's so, like I said, social enterprise is a suitable business model for something. And if it's not suitable for your thing, that's fine. It's okay. You can be a charity or a conventional business or a non-profit or whatever form you want, or a voluntary project or anything, that's totally fine and acceptable. I think it's important to be honest with yourself and say, am I prepared to kind of sacrifice a lot of my time and probably other people's time, my family's time, to make this thing work, because it's not going to generate a ton of money. So it has to be something you really care about. And I think it's important to be honest with yourself about money, because again, I don't want to talk about specific people, and I want to be nice and friendly, but at the same time, I have seen many people who have an idea, social enterprise idea, and people ask them, okay, what about the money? How are you going to get money? And they say, well, in the future, when we have grown the social enterprise, we will try to get funding, and maybe the EU can give us funding. There's this vague plan. There's a vague plan to get funding from someone in the future, some institution, and it's like nobody is going to help you. Nobody is going to help. You're not going to get a phone call telling you, "Hey, we love what you're doing. Here, we're going to pay for your salaries." It's just not going to happen. So you have to really think about finding this weird and very awkward way to work through and find how can this be financially sustainable. It's not easy. It's a hard path to walk, and the only way that you stay on that path is by being passionate about it and really caring about the thing that you're doing. I love authors. I love talking with the authors when they contact us. When people who send us, like this morning, somebody sent me a book. I have it here. This arrived this morning. I have no idea what it says. I don't know if this person, they didn't contact me. The only thing I know is it says book. So someone has sent us a book. It might be an author who sent us his book. It might be a visitor who saw that we didn't have something from his country and has sent us something. But this happens often. This happens at least every week. So that's for people like this. That's why I sacrifice and and run this very difficult form of business, because the rewards are like amazing, and the rewards of freedom, like the intellectual freedom, the financial freedom, again, unlike maybe a conventional nonprofit. It's just so beneficial. It's a nice way to live. If you have a mind where you're looking for something like that, then it's suitable for you. If you're motivated by money, sorry, dude, it's not going to happen. And but if you can, people respond very well to passion. People respond very well to seeing you care about the thing that you're doing. So don't be shy about it. I was going to say don't be Estonian about it, but what I mean to say is don't try to be too cool. Just be frank and honest. Actually, I can give one very specific piece of advice for anybody working in Estonia. This is super specific. If you want something, because in Estonia, almost nobody asks for what they want. If you just go to people and you say, "Hey, can you do this?" People are usually quite surprised, and they say, "Okay, I think yes." It's a little trick I found in Estonia. Usually people are quite reserved. So if you're just frank and honest about what you want and why you want it, you can go, people respond very well, actually, because they like the honesty and they like the simplicity and they like the frankness. That's a good tip for Estonia. I'd also say don't be afraid of the legal side and the formal side of starting a business. Yes, you have to get a bank account, you have to register with the government, you have to fill in those application forms. There's a whole thing you have to do. Don't be too scared of that. It's just part of the process. Like, don't be emotional about it, don't be worried about it. Like, who cares about that stuff? That stuff's not important. The important thing is like the vision. A vision will carry you through towards the end. Yeah, I think that maintaining the vision is kind of most important. Sorry.
I mean, absolutely appreciate your honesty, because you highlighted both ups and downs. And this is kind of a reality check for many people who are maybe aspiring social entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's true. I do sympathize though, because I sympathize because even the words social enterprise are so loaded, and the words social enterprise are have so many different meanings, and these things change by country, and in Estonia there's no legal definition, and you have organizations which call themselves social enterprises, large supermarkets which call themselves social enterprises because sometimes they give discounts, on food or something like that. And this is a serious problem, because it confuses the business model for some CSR activity. That's not helpful also, because people like SEMA students, they're really trying to actually start a social enterprise.
Yes.
And they might not get that kind of, and then I try to tell people that and they say, wait, I don't understand. So what are you doing? Sorry, there's no precedent for it, but it isn't in the culture. So that's a specific challenge. I think what that means is that that's an opportunity on the SEMA course, actually, specifically, because in the SEMA course, you can consider the different interpretations of that word, definitions, business models, and think for yourself, okay, honestly, is my thing social enterprise like Joe, where it's we don't funding, blah blah blah, or is it actually non-profit? They generate money like a normal museum where we will get application forms, and that's fine. Or is my idea actually CSR project for another company? And that's fine. If that's what your thing is, then that's what your thing is. Don't try to force it to be another thing. I think that being honest with yourself is particularly important. And if you have this idea, being honest about what it is, don't try to force it to be another.
What I wanted to ask next is how the listeners can get involved in supporting your mission, in what you do to support Banned Books Museum. What are the ways they can get involved? What they can do?
You can come to the museum and talk to us. Of course, that's what I want people to do. I want people to come here and to see the collection and to learn about this topic. After that, it will be what it will be. We have people who, all different kinds of people who join our community as volunteers, as interns. We even have a couple of teenagers who work here as part-time employees. We gave them their first jobs, and that was really nice. And we've trained them up, and that's a very satisfying part of the work too. So everybody has a different relationship with this place. Some people do research for us. Some people send us books. Some people come to our event, simple things like that. And all of these things come together to have this successful and nice community. And yeah, our community is really special for me. We usually attract people who are very enthusiastic about books but also compassionate and open-minded and
Yes,
ready to talk and ready to learn and ready to communicate. It's nice to foster this little community. I like that.
that's wonderful. Joe, many thanks for sharing your journey with us. It's been absolutely inspiring to see how Banned Books Museum is not only just a museum preserving history of banned books, but also it is really challenging everyone, especially visitors, to think more critically about censorship and free expression and free speech. And to our listeners, if today's conversation sparked your curiosity, please make sure to check out the Banned Books Museum in person whenever you are in Tallinn or online. We will link their social media channels below. And if you are interested in social entrepreneurships, the SEMA program at Tallinn University might just be the perfect place to start your own impact-driven enterprise. Many thanks for tuning in, and until the next time. Bye-bye.